Croglin is a haven of peace, located approximately 14 miles southeast of the historic city of Carlisle. The gentle flow of Croglin water, a small river that winds through the valley, adds to the village's allure as it meanders its way into the embrace of the River Eden. But was this place the scene of a real-life vampire attack? One summer in the 1870s, as twilight painted the sky in soft hues of orange and pink, Amelia Cranswell retired to her room at the family home of Croglin Low Hall for the night, and since it was still very hot, she decided not to fasten the shutters on the windows. She reclined against plump pillows, her gaze drifting lazily over the serene, dusky landscape outside. Yet tranquility soon gave way to a sense of creeping unease, as two flickering lights danced amidst the trees in the distance bordering the estate, casting an eerie shadow upon the lawn. With mounting dread, the young woman watched as the lights coalesced into a sinister form, drawing closer to her window with each passing moment. A shiver ran down her spine as she locked eyes with the grotesque face, its features twisted into a macabre semblance of humanity, illuminated by eyes ablaze with unholy fire. In a panic, she leapt from her bed, racing toward the door, which she had locked from the inside only moments before. Frantically, she struggled to undo the latch. All the while, the sound of the claws scratching against glass filled the room. As she glanced back in terror, the face loomed ever larger. The creature suddenly stopped, scratching at the glass, and for a brief moment, the young woman felt a sense of relief. This was very short-lived, however, because the creature had merely changed its strategy, and instead had begun to pick away at the lead around the window frame. It was trying to remove the glass. Suddenly a pane fell to the floor and shattered. A skeletal hand reached in through the gap and turned the handle of the window, admitting the nightmarish intruder into the young woman's sanctuary. With a guttural snarl, the creature descended on her, grabbing her by the hair, its jagged teeth tearing into her throat. Desperate cries pierced the stillness of the night as she fought against this fiend. At last, her brothers, Michael and Edward, roused from their slumber by her anguished screams, burst into the room with their pistols drawn and ready. Their sister lay unconscious on the floor in a pool of blood. The wound on her neck, though not terribly deep, was bleeding profusely. They described the creature bent over her as a tall, spindly fellow in a curious cloak and with incredibly long legs. The creature took flight, and the brothers managed to revive their sister, who fortunately was able to fully recover from the ordeal. The family decided that they would pack up and spend that summer in Switzerland to remove themselves from the memories of such an awful encounter. Sometime later they returned to the family home and all was well for a few months. Settling down for the night once again, and closing the shutters this time, but at peace with her old surroundings once more, the woman began to hear a familiar scratching at the window. She opened the shutters and was confronted by the snarling, grotesque face once again, but this time she raised the alarm straight away, alerting her brothers, who burst into the room just as the creature had managed to open the window yet again. One brother wounded the monster, sending it fleeing into the darkness beyond. The bullet had hit the creature in the leg, but it hadn't seemed to slow it down at all. They just about made out the figure as it disappeared into a nearby churchyard. It vanished into some trees, and then seemed to reappear near a brick wall before jumping into the churchyard and disappearing into some sort of vault. As dawn was just beginning to break, many of the villagers had been woken by this commotion and were outside watching things unfold. Some of them joined the family as they ventured into the vaults beneath the church to confront the source of their terror in order to kill the beast. Within, they discovered a ghastly sight. Coffins torn asunder, their grisly contents scattered across the floor. Yet amidst this carnage, a stone slab seemed out of place. Beneath it was one coffin, which remained untouched, its lid still intact. Braving their fear, they pried open the coffin lid, revealing the withered, hideous form of the creature that had haunted their nights. The bullet which had struck it mere moments before was still lodged in its leg. With solemn determination, they set fire to the creature, hoping to finally lay their fears to rest. A priest was also summoned, and a sharpened stake dipped in holy water was driven into the creature's heart. The story came to prominence in the book Story of My Life, which was the autobiography of one Augustus Hare. It was a 6-volume series about his travels and encounters around the world, and there's no mention of the exact year that this took place in the book. And in fact, the tale is reported in various places as having happened in different years. Some say 1871, others 1874, others still refer to it as 100 years ago. In some versions, the second attack happens prior to the trip to Switzerland, and in others, it happens afterwards. The part about the churchyard and the finding of the strange creature's body doesn't seem to add up, because the closest churchyard is about an hour away, on foot, and I'm not sure they'd have spent an hour running after a creature with a bullet in its leg. But in the 1930s, a researcher named Francis Clive Ross discovered that there had actually at one time been a chapel on the grounds which was built on the ruins of an earlier church. There's consternation around the location too, since the original story refers to Croglin Grange and specifies a single-storey house. There is no Croglin Grange these days, but Francis Ross did supposedly interview a Mrs. Perkin who knew a descendant of the Fisher family who had leased the property to the Cranswells. This descendant of the Fishers had told Mrs. Perkin that the deed to Croglin Low Hall had originally referred to the property as Croglin Grange. But Croglin Low Hall is a 2-storey building. Maybe it was rebuilt. In some reports, the family is named the Burrows. In others, they're called the Cranswells. So maybe this never happened. Maybe it's an embellished tale based on something rather more normal. It's obviously inspired this scene in John Badham's 1979 version of Dracula with Frank Langella. Had the story ended with the creature vanishing and never returning, I might be more inclined to entertain the notion that it might be based in some sort of fact. However, the stake through the heart and the burning of the corpse pushed it into make-believe for me, since this is the stuff of Dracula novels, isn't it? But then again, Dracula was published in 1879, and this story took place at least 5 years prior to this. But Dracula wasn't the first vampire tale in England either. There was already The Vampire by John Polidori, which was published in 1819. There was also a popular penny dreadful serial titled Varney the Vampire, which was in print between 1845 and 1847. Some researchers suggested that Amelia had simply seen the eyes of an owl at the window and that her imagination had done the rest. Another suggestion was that an escaped circus monkey was the attacker. Personally, I like the fact that this encounter exists in print, but I would put it in the fiction basket myself. But then again, why is this window bricked up at Croglin Low Hall? And why is it protected by all these lucky horseshoes. You let me know what you think about this one in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit the like button please, it's a little thumbs up button in the corner there. Share the video with your friends and all that good YouTube stuff. Bye for now.